There are motorcycles that promise excitement, others that promise comfort. And then there's this, Honda's NT1100 DCT, a machine that looks like it was built by a team of sensible engineers who finally snapped and said, fine, you want fun? Have some. Now look, this isn't your track day toy or your canyon carving hooligan machine. This is a grown-up's motorcycle, a bike for people who've been there and done that and want to get there again without a sore back and a wrist full of arthritis. But don't let that fool you. This thing moves. In fact, it's got a trick that makes it faster and lazier than you would expect. And I kind of love it for it. Today, we're going to talk about why the NT1100 might be the most underappreciated bike in Honda's lineup, and why it's not just an Africa twin in dad jeans. So how do you test a bike like this? I mean, you don't take it to a racetrack, you don't throw it on a dyno. No, if you want to test a bike that claims to do everything, you take it everywhere. We're going to ride this bike, Honda's button-shifting, auto-everything touring machine, into the heart of America's most iconic wilderness, Yellowstone National Park. And just for good measure, we're not stopping there. We're going to take it over Beartooth Pass, one of the highest, most ridiculous stretches of paved road in the entire United States. Hairpins, altitude, weather changes, maybe a bison or two standing in the middle of the road. This isn't a Sunday ride or a Monday morning commute. This is a pressure test of comfort, of power, of range, of whether Honda's weird gearbox can actually make sense in the real world. And if this bike can handle this trip, fully loaded, high altitude, real touring, by the end of this, we'll know what it's really made of. Now, in typical CanyonChasers fashion, we're going to chase down every canyon between here and there, leaving Salt Lake City and working our way north past Bear Lake, into Jackson Hole, then making our way through Grand Teton National Park, Yellowstone National Park, and then wrapping things up in Red Lodge, Montana. But first, let's get to know Honda's NT1100. It's the same chassis as the Africa Twin, only lower and sportier, trading in the big dirt bike wheels for some sporty 17-inch cast wheels you'd find on a superbike. It's even powered by the same parallel twin, but tuned for smoothness and mid-range grunt. And while Honda doesn't reveal any claimed power numbers, we can expect about 100 horsepower and 100 newtons of torque. And that's sweet, sweet DCT Honda dual clutch transmission, which means no clutch lever, no shift lever, and seamless automatic or paddle shifting. Now, DCT is its own topic entirely, and I didn't want to let it overwhelm this review, so I did an entire video just on the transmission. So go check that out if you want to learn more. You also get a 5-position adjustable windscreen, heated grips, and non-adaptive cruise control. Suspension is big piston 43mm Showa, brakes are Nissan, seat is all-day plush, and the whole thing's built for real-world sport-focused touring. Comfortable, practical, and deceptively quick. And it comes in any color you want, as long as it's this sparkly pearl Hawkeye blue. Black saddlebags are $1,000, add another $200 if you want this blue color mesh panel. You can even get a top bag if you want it, and let's not forget the Apple CarPlay Android Auto touchscreen. This sadly only works when your phone is plugged into the dashboard. For under $12,000, this thing is an absolute bargain. A budget tourer that punches so far above its weight, it's practically mugging motorcycles twice its price. In Europe, it's a bestseller, probably because over there you can tick boxes like electronic suspension or opt for a manual gearbox. Now, about all of those features. I counted over 20 buttons on the handlebars. It's like Honda designed the cockpit after watching a sci-fi movie marathon and thought, yes, that, exactly that. And it's not the most intuitive layout I've seen. I feel like I'm trying to get through the space shuttle launch sequence. The screen is an actual touch screen, but you can't touch it while the bike is in motion. But if you actually took the time to memorize what each of those 20 buttons did, you'd probably be able to pilot a Mars rover. It's loaded with tech, cruise control, 3 preset ride modes, 2 customizable ones. I mean, I naturally made my own go fast mode, max power, minimum engine braking, and the lowest traction control setting. Because even at its most relaxed, the TC feels like a nervous ant grabbing your wrist at the top of a stairwell. I love cornering ABS, especially on a bike at this price point. Meanwhile, the IMU decides when to shift, except for the default D mode, which will have you cruising at 35 miles an hour in top gear, wondering if the bike thinks you're commuting through a school zone. I found the 3 sub-sport modes by holding down the S button long enough to feel like I was trying to unlock cheat codes. But ultimately, I just left it in manual mode. It's simply more fun when you're the one barking orders. Speaking of control, let's talk about the dual gauges. There's a smaller LCD for when you're using Android Auto or Apple CarPlay. It's a great idea if you don't mind being physically tethered to your motorcycle like it's 2009. Luckily, I had a wireless CarPlay dongle that saved the day. Still, it's a shame we don't get the Goldwing Slick wireless setup, at least not yet. For storage, the saddlebags are gargantuan. I could fit my camera gear, a tripod, and probably a week's worth of regret from buying another new motorcycle. They'll swallow a full-face helmet too, and while I usually don't like clamshell-style bags, these are some of the better thought-out ones I've used. Lastly, it's a bit shorter than the Africa Twin it's based on, with a 32-inch seat height. And despite my 30-inch inseam, I could still get both feet to the ground thanks to the well-sculpted seat. This bike absolutely comes alive in big, fast sweepers. The kind of curves that stretch out like a lazy river and make you consider writing them love letters. The kind you don't just ride, you commit to, like a long-term relationship with a scenic twist. It's so planted, so reassuringly stable, that it feels less like you're riding a motorcycle and more like you've surgically grafted yourself to a guided missile. The 17-inch superbike-sized wheels, combined with a shockingly aggressive 109 millimeters of trail, make this thing want to turn. I mean, it doesn't just tip in, it dives in like it's been double dog dared to chase down a CBR. And thanks to the crazy long Africa Twin swing arm, the bike stays planted, like you'll never lose grip again. I mean, the swing arm is so long, it's like an aircraft carrier long, and that stability pays dividends when the road gets fast and flowy. At a 6/10 or 7/10 pace, the NT is a revelation. It's eager and playful, like a 550-pound Labrador that thinks it's a border collie. It surprises you with just how light it feels mid-corner, ready to bounce from apex to apex with a grin you can feel through your helmet. It'll handle tight technical roads just fine. It's got the chassis and the geometry for it, but that's not really where this bike feels most at home. And despite all of its cornering chops, this bike seemed happy to devour long straight roads like they owed it money. When we rolled into the congested, slow-crawling traffic inside the park, I'll be honest, I was thrilled to have the DCT taking care of the gear changes for me. No clutch juggling, no toe tapping, just smooth, effortless progress while I focused on dodging rental cars and oversized RVs. The low seat height and well-balanced chassis made slow speed riding surprisingly tolerable, almost enjoyable even. It's the kind of situation where this bike quietly shines, making what would be a miserable slog feel like a pleasant cruise. But as you ratchet up the pace, some cracks start to show. When pushed, the suspension reveals that it's undersprung and underdamped. It's a bit soft and a bit lazy, like your mate who shows up to help you move and just holds the dolly all day. With only preload to adjust, your options are slim, and if you want it to work well at high speed, then you'd better ride smooth, like a late-night saxophone solo from the 80s smooth. An overabundance of speed can push the brakes. Based on feel alone, I suspect it has semi-metallic pads, and if it were my bike, I'd explore the possibility of throwing in a set of sintered pads for a little bit more braking performance. Seating position is extremely subjective. We're all sized differently, but for my dimensions, both the handlebars and the foot pegs felt a little too far forward. And the windshield is adjustable, but trying to change it while riding feels like you're attempting to reprogram a VCR mid-wheelie. And it's not electronic, so unless your arms bend like a praying mantis, you'll be pulling over every time you want to tweak it. And despite the supposed range of motion, I could never quite find the just right setting. It's Goldilocks' worst nightmare. I eventually gave up and left it all the way down or one click up from the bottom, which worked okay for me. But then I'm short, so your turbulence may vary. The NT1100 is a Swiss Army knife of sporty commuting touring bikes. It's not the fastest, the lightest, or the most tech-obsessed thing on two wheels. But it'll take you to the middle of nowhere, keep you comfortable, carry all your crap, and still give you enough grins to make your sport bike jealous. Yeah, it competes with bikes like the Yamaha Tracer 9 GT and the Kawasaki Versys 1000. It's upright and sporty and practical. But the one bike that it reminded me of the most was the early Ducati Multistrada 1200, and I mean that as a genuine compliment. Because those early multis were basically just a cross between a dirt bike and a sport bike. They were fast enough to make you question your life choices, but still all day comfortable and endlessly capable. And here's the thing that nobody seems to be talking about. Honda didn't call this an ST like the legendary ST1100 or ST13. And they didn't slap a VFR badge on it either. They called it an NT. And that, I think, is more significant than most people realize. The first NT wasn't a touring bike at all. It was an NT650 Hawk, a quirky, brilliant mashup, a dirt bike engine from a Transalp stuffed into the nimble GP250 chassis, the love child of a dual sport and a sport bike. And the result was one of the most beloved and misunderstood bikes Honda ever built. It wasn't a chart topper, and it definitely wasn't perfect, but it had a soul, and it carved out a loyal following that still hasn't let go. And now, decades later, Honda dusted off the NT badge. Not for nostalgia, but maybe as a quiet nod to that same spirit. A bike that doesn't fit neatly into a category, one that blends dirt bike capability with sport bike eagerness. Not built to dominate spec sheets, but to win hearts on real roads over real miles. And to me, that's what I think I love most about this bike. Blending dirt bike manners with sport bike and practicality somehow always becomes something that is sensible, but also fast, easy, capable, and unexpectedly charming. It's a grown-up bike for riders who still want to feel like kids sometimes, just without the back pain and the missed shifts. So yeah, it's not perfect, no bike is. But this might just be the most underappreciated machine Honda makes. And after riding it through Yellowstone and over Beartooth Pass and chasing down every canyon we could find, one thing's for sure, boring it is not. Just don't forget to set the parking brake.